great read or Audible. I'm Susie Batt, steward on Spork DAO, and that governs this fabulous festival and Bufficorn Ventures and Biddle Brigade. I am joined by my friends and panelists, Igor from Gateway FM, Nalin from Google Cloud, and Xixi from Sender Wallet. So let's divide this half hour into two parts. Let's first talk about infrastructure needs and the innovation, and then partnerships. Our challenge in Web3 is to build widely accessible dApps for the masses. We attempt to do this by attracting new talent and innovation, and offering builders comprehensive dev tooling and open participation of running nodes. Would each of you please speak about your organization, its mission to support Web3 infrastructure growth and dev tooling?
Hey everyone, I'm Nalin from Google Cloud. I lead Web3 product there, and our mission is really to be the best place for Web3 developers. Right? So today we're focusing on node infrastructure, just specifically fully managed dedicated nodes, as well as indexed blockchain data. So indexing the data, putting it into BigQuery, and making it available through SQL. And we see, the challenges are, how do we make it easier for Web3 developers to build, solving some of these foundational primitive needs like node infrastructure and data, but then also how do we get more Web 2 developers building on Web 3? How do we help them not worry about RPC nodes and requests and ABIs and provide the levels of abstraction that make it super easy for any new developer to enter the space?
Igor, why don't you riff off of that, because RPC nodes are your thing.
I'm Igor from Gateway. We also run RPC nodes distributed around the globe. And we are also, a part of our mission is to make sure that the spirit of decentralization of this space is alive. So it's not only Google or Amazon where you can get your nodes from, but also from independent data centers. That's why we built an extremely portable cloud agnostic infrastructure on top of whatever that can build this thing. And also, we're not only applying it for RPC nodes themselves, but also for things little things like a node validation or points of censorships when you can do, because there are typically 2 points of censorships on the nodes. There used to be an experiment in the old Bitcoin community about if miners collude versus if RPC providers collude on different soft forks, who wins? And turns out that's both lose, so sort of both ways are important, because let's say if your miners collude and somebody runs their own nodes, they will be on the fork of the miners. But if the miners collude and let's say the RPC providers collude, those who use RPC providers will be on the RPC providers fork. So it's all very important to keep it all consistent and decentralized, and to have it open not only for the players who will use this service, but also who run it as well.
Could you add to that, Xixi?
Yeah, definitely. So currently we're building a wallet. It's called Sender Wallet, and it's basically a native near wallet. And by using this sharded technology, we find it a little bit adequate in terms of the users, and we are going to use Ethereum and EVM as well as layer 2s. So currently, non-custodial wallet is very, very competitive, and we are transferring our product, or we are gonna come out with a Sender Pro, which is basically an account abstraction. And within that, we're gonna need a lot of a lot of infrastructure, a lot of proposals on EIP 4337, which is very significant for the future of wallet. And as well, in the meantime, we find it very, very crucial for the developers, because it is really, really hard to find, really good smart contract developers. And I think the developer ecosystem is also very, very essential for the infrastructure.
Somebody just won a Bufficorn. Congrats. Okay, life is good. This festival, ETH Denver is always focused on builders, on you all. I'd like to ask the panelists, what are you doing specifically to attract devs or improve dev tooling to your products?
Okay, so I can start. So at Gateway, we are a little bit in a unique space where we are both part of the core developers team on both Ethereum and Gnosis chain. So we are also not only we are trying to provide reliable tooling, infrastructure, documentation, and some extra stuff for the developers, but we're also trying to bridge this gap that always was there in the community when there was one group of people who built nodes and totally separate group of people who use and run them, and that ends up with some funny stuff like you restart your server at the wrong time and your node is dead forever. So yeah, so we are trying to kind of bridge this gap to make sure that it's better not only for us, but even for other infrastructure providers to run these things by participating actively in the core development of some chains.
Nalin.
Yeah, sure. So, I'll talk about the two focus areas we have again. So in terms of node infrastructure, we're building a service that's already out in private preview for fully managed Ethereum nodes. So with a single API call or a single click in the UI, you get a node, it syncs with the blockchain, we monitor it, we make sure it doesn't go down, restart it safely if need be, upgrade it for you. You can choose whether you want mainnet or test nets, full nodes or archive nodes. And because these are dedicated nodes, you get a lot of configurability. So if you want to put these in regions of your choice, you can do that. If you want to put them behind a firewall so only your team or your partners can access that node, you can do that. So really just trying to provide the very basic foundational primitive for node infrastructures so that other providers, whether they're platforms or end developers, can quickly scale up their elastic, set of nodes, pool of nodes. Then on the data side, there's we look at how do we make this data more accessible. So by putting it in BigQuery, it becomes a lot easier for any developer to just query it with SQL like they have been their Web 2 data. And long term, we want to do things like decode that data, make it very easy to understand, do token balances, NFT balances. Every developer doesn't have to do that same process over and over again. So that's kind of how we look at it.
Anything you want to add to that, Xixi?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as now we're building a wallet, and since it's within near, so I think there are some developers over there. But after we, go Matochen, and after we are going to develop on Ethereum and EVM, there will definitely be more developers involved, and with more integrations.
Okay, so the big elephant in the room is not really an elephant, but Google. And we talked about this yesterday, you and I, and how, over the years, we've seen this sort of Web 2 company creep, but as welcoming as we all are, we're a little curious, what's the play, and what are you looking to, the attraction to entrepreneurs is clear, but I'd like for you to talk a little bit about it and kind of dispel any thoughts that maybe the audience might have.
Sure. So, for us, it's pretty simple. For the last 3 years, we've had a digital asset sales team in cloud that's been helping Web3 native companies and Web2 companies that are getting more into Web3 build their workloads on GCP, right? So we've been doing this for a while. If you look at what we've done with Dapper and helped them launch NBA Top Shot and Flow, to being part of Hedera's council, running validators with them. So we've just naturally been doing more and more with Web3 workloads, and it became very obvious that we should have a Web3 product offering in cloud to serve these customers even better. So it hasn't really been a huge internal sell or anything like that. It's just this is a natural extension of the business we've been doing. Then there's other teams within Google that are looking more broadly. How can we apply Web3 to other parts of the business? And that's a separate team that we partner with.
Along that spectrum is decentralized node infrastructure. Igor, you've been working on this for quite some time, and your background the genesis is really TurboGeth. Can you talk? I know it's very OG. Anybody here remember TurboGeth? Raise your hand. Yeah. Okay. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. All right. So I think it was like 2017, 18 when the TurboGeth was. It was a Medium post by Xixi, who was like, okay, Geth is not really that performance at certain things. We can try to do better. And then for a year and a half, he was going and trying to convince different people to change the data model for how, because like going back a little bit, how Ethereum usually stores this data or stored this data at first was basically sort of a carbon copy of how Bitcoin did it. So basically you have like this Merkle tree, you have this Merkle proof in the root, and you store data in the tree structure. And this tree structure, I'm getting very deep here, you then need to store it in the database, which is a flat key, like kind of key value storage thingy, right? And then after that, basically what Bitcoin did and what Ethereum at first did is basically, yeah, we just serialize it as it goes, like in a very naive way, which, and the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is obviously the smart contract, so the amount of state of like Bitcoin is minuscule, so it works for them, you don't need to optimize anything. But when you have like 300 million active smart contracts on Ethereum mainnet-ish in like maybe a year ago, I think I checked it, then it's totally different numbers. So then at some point when we gave up trying to convince people to change the data model, convincing turns out is hard, so we decided to just build it. So I joined the team in 2019, I think, and yeah, we've been basically started with just Geth, throwing away the data storage, replacing it, then eventually we replaced the sync model as well. And then we replaced at some point, because we also found this issue that with the databases that usually are used, let's say maybe LevelDB is the default one that Geth was using. Then RocksDB, I think, is what Nethermind is using. So these databases, they don't have transactions. That means that if you try to do multiple operations, and let's say, I don't know, applying a transaction to your state is multiple operation, and you restart your node at the wrong time, it corrupts the data because it doesn't have transaction to roll back. So we switched to a database called LMDB that was transactional. But when we tried to put Ethereum state there, which an archival state, which was at that point like 1.2 terabytes, I think, in Aragon, which I think in Geth it was around 10 terabytes or something like this. And we found some bugs. Then the developer told us that, no, you shouldn't put 1.2 terabytes in my database, and declined all support. So then we switched to another database, which was a fork of this one, but with a developer who actually wanted to work with us on this. So we ended up with this kind of interesting project.
So the reason why I bring this up for young devs who are here is to understand that where you start is in a project or is not where you end, and that there is an evolution, like Igor and all of us here through the years of the product and of the infrastructure. I'd like to move now into the talk of partnerships, because as Igor has talked about, being not new to this ecosystem, you cannot grow without partnerships. Google, who is new to Web3, also relies on partnerships. And Xixi, being a wallet, you also rely on many partnerships, whether it's Wallet Connect or multi-chain. So could you speak about first some lessons learned of partnerships that you have manifested through this product iteration?
Hello? Yeah. So yeah, sure. I think, for us, we want to really focus on what Google does well. So data, compute are our strengths. And so we can apply a lot of expertise to the space there. And where we don't have expertise, we're looking to partner. So, we've done a bunch of partnerships over the last few years. Coinbase was a big one where we help them run their blockchain workloads, and they're helping us accept crypto to pay for cloud, right? So if you want to pay for cloud with USDC, that's a partnership we do with them. Also, holding crypto on our balance sheets is something that would have been very difficult for us to do without a partner like Coinbase. Solana is another one that we partner with. So we've helped them from quite early days with holding their historical data and things like Bigtable and managing that. And now we're helping their developer community with helping run nodes, making that data more accessible. So I think a lot of people in the space talk about partnerships in terms of deals or sales, and that's fine. That's like a form of partnership. But we really look for more bi-directional partnerships where we can help our customers and they can help us actually move the ecosystem forward.
So whether it's new market or new tech stack, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, for us, we've obviously been doing Web 2 cloud for quite a long time. And by partnering with other folks in the space, I think we can kind of start to extend our leadership in that Web 3 space. And then likewise, I think we're seeing right now a trend where there's a little bit of slowdown in activity. I think I'm very energized by this conference and how much is going on. But you are seeing like a lot of Web 2 or traditional enterprise companies get into Web 3. And that's where we can help be that bridge and bring Web 2 customers to the ecosystem.
Please add.
So I actually just started my my experience in terms of within a product. I was an ex-VC, so my partnerships experience and the lessons learned are basically all from VCs. And I think the least meaningful partnerships are basically those just co-marketing shit. Like those co-marketing stuff on Twitter, I just retweet, and it's nobody knows what do you do and what exactly are you working on. And I think one example that I think that's the most meaningful partnership, which is the superhero Sam from Paradigm. He found out the bags that saved $350 million on Sushi Strap, and then he found another bag on DYDX. And I think that kind of partnership, they invested in them, and then they are helping them fundamentally is the true partnership. And I think that's that which build up security, and that actually are helping the industry is very, very meaningful. And as a wallet, I just learned that we have so many partnerships to establish and collaborations. I never knew as a VC, but now I know that we could not only co-marketing, but we could also integrate their functions within our UI UX, and that we could have improved liquidity on both ends, as well as advanced adoption and innovation.
And for me, the partnerships are the core that we do at Gateway. For instance, two of the more successful ones are one with Gnosis Chain and another with Aragon, the nodes. So in the nodes, it's, again, as I told, we're just bridging the gap, we're bridging our experience of running the nodes and issues that we find while we run them at scale, because it's difficult to test these kind of tricky protocols and things at scale, right? And with Aragon, we've also been helping to going through the merge process, the merge of Ethereum, now with withdrawals and stuff like this. For Gnosis Chain, for other more, Gnosis Chain is quite an OG. I would say it's upcoming protocol, but still, when you're launching your protocol on URL1, you need things like devnets, testnets, reliable RPCs, some data indexing, and things like this. And if you're building a protocol and you're doing super cool consensus algorithm, that's not your core experience to do DevOps stuff in general. And so that's where we help them. And of course, the better their node tech is and the more popular their network is better for us. So it's been very, very fruitful, again, with Gnosis Chain and with Aragon, and some other players.
So looking forward, I'd like to get your insights on what we could look forward to. At DEF CON, Vitalik talked about possibly in the future, he always has these oracle talks, right? And then they manifest. But he envisions running nodes on your mobile. What do you foresee? Like, there are incremental steps to that. What would you like to see?
Well, I can comment directly on that because trying to put nodes on mobile was my kind of specialty from 2017 until 2019-ish. And we are not there yet. And especially, even if we can put the nodes, like let's say light nodes, there's the whole light node research that was revived in the Ethereum Foundation not so long ago. But it still relied on a semi-trusted third parties. So at that point, like, you cannot run them in a purely decentralized manner, and the technical issue for that is mostly the battery in your phone, because it will like completely be drained in like, I don't know, 3 hours of usage if you keep the node running. Because what you want to do is you want your nodes to always be at the head of the chain. If you open a wallet, you want to see your balance right now and not 3 months ago. But if you're actually saving the battery, you need to stop your node and then it needs to catch up. And if you want to catch up quickly, you need to trust somebody that you get the data correctly. And so far, maybe there is somebody who's building like a good, verifiable protocol for that does it in decentralized manner, but technically what it needs to do, it needs to find other nodes and not just trust one URL, let's say from Google Cloud or something that it trusts. And then it needs to find if they are fine to sync from them, then get data and verify this data somehow. And this is the major culprit. Like, you can't, otherwise technically our phones are, I mean, most of our phones right now are faster than our laptops like 5 years ago. So you definitely, with everything else, you can run a node on your phone, no problem, if you have an infinite battery, essentially. So that's...
So battery capacity and, of course, internet.
Yeah. We see here, like, Ryan, that we are kind of doing the P2P things, and then you cannot pay for coffee with tokens because internet is down, right? So it's not really decentralized as much as we would want it to be, especially at the last mile and this kind of edge computing.
Well, I just mentioned internet because, like, there's always lack of here at our conferences. And today's just, I know, it's terrible. Nalin.
Yeah, so I think the latest architecture for Ethereum lets you split up validators from consensus layer, right? So I think one vision is you have really lightweight validators. Maybe like Ethereum Foundation believes you can put them even on Raspberry Pis, like very lightweight machines.
I believe you can put it on your fridge.
Yeah, there
nowadays.
You go. And then you can connect them to a node in the cloud that's doing more of the heavy lifting on the consensus side. So I think that's one way to achieve this decentralization, where before you needed, a much heavier weight validator. Now we're moving to a place where that's not needed, and that decentralization can actually happen. And to your point, where like not trusting one URL in the cloud for Google Cloud or Amazon, we would love to support multi-cloud node deployments in the future. So while we don't want to be your only node infrastructure, we hope to be your best node infrastructure. We understand, like, in the Web3 world, you're going to have other redundancy options. You're going to have a multi-cloud architecture, and we want to be the place that helps you get there.
Yeah, and by the way, what you're talking about, the validator clients, we're basically already are doing that at Gateway, where it's not on the Raspberry Pis, but sometimes we need to put validators themselves in some places in the world where data centers are extremely expensive. So that's where, let's say, you have your validator in one country, but then you have the actual consensus and execution layer nodes in another country, and then you need basically like a super tiny machine with like 5 gigs of storage and like 1 gig of RAM to serve like validators, no problem. And it's completely non-custodial because we don't see any keys from anything, and you don't need exit transactions and stuff like this. So that's already happening right now.
Okay, we're at 2 minutes. Just wanted to add, what are you reading right now that's inspiring that you'd like to share, and where can people find you?
Okay, so the last book that's sort of related to that was Build by Tony Fadell. So, Build by Tony Fadell. That's an exceptional book. I really recommend it. And you can find me at Twitter, like Mandrigan is my last name, so just search for that. So that's the main kind of source.
For me, I think last book was Network State by Balaji, and you can find me at Nalin, at Nalin on Twitter.
So we are basically building a future that everyone will see, hey, remember back in the early 2020s, we still need CD freeze, memory, and to log into your non-custodial wallet. That's gonna be like, the future is gonna be account abstraction. And that's what we're actually building right now. So you could find us, Sender Wallet on Twitter, and the internet address is senderwallet.org. And you could just install browser extensions and mobile apps on iOS as well as Google Play. And you could find me, Crypto Miga, M-I-G-A.
Great. And again, I'm Susie. Thanks for coming. And please stay. Our panelists will be around for any questions afterwards. Thank you.